If you knew you would always win in any situation, it would be just a pushover, and life would suddenly cease to have any interest whatsoever. You may imagine yourselves in total control of everything that happens. You would be bored to death. No surprises, nothing. You see, when in a game you're playing a game, and the outcome of the game becomes known, supposing in the course of bridge, the four players all suddenly realize together that one of them has all the cards, will take the tricks. What do? They don't play the game, they cancel it and begin again, shuffle the pack. So in the same way, an omniscient God who knew the whole future would cancel the universe and say, think up another. So it is fundamental to the game of black and white that it must seem that black will win and eat up white. That, in other words, non-existence will triumph over existence. Or rather, let me put it this way, non-being will triumph over being. Because the secret is that existence is being and non-being, oscillating. So that for every time you get being, you get non-being. Just as everything is vibration. And these spectra are vibrations. Light is vibration. And so everything is on-off. Only sometimes on-off happens so fast that you don't notice the off. For example, light is a pulsation, but all light seems to be constant. And so we don't notice the off because our retina is retaining the image of on while the off is happening in the light. So we don't notice the off, but everything is on-off. Now then, sometimes, you see, we don't notice the off, but at other times we don't notice the on. And that is when we're asleep, when, in other words, or when we're dead, when the trough, the off section, takes a long spin. Because you see, there are big vibrations and little vibrations. Some vibrations happen so fast that we can't measure them. Others happen so slowly that it takes a century. It may take 1,000,000 years for a single swoop of the curve that goes down or that makes the upcrest of the wave. You see, when you look at the wave pattern, you must realize that the crest is measured from the top to the middle of each trough. That the trough is measured from the top of each crest to the bottom of the trough. They overlap. So if you can argue it's all trough, you can argue it's all crest. It's a funny world. So the argument that it's all trough and that maybe just a little bit of crest, about boing like that, these are the people who say, well, we are flashes in an eternal darkness. It's a pessimistic point of view. And then there are the people who say there really is no death at all. Death is just an illusion that seems to happen. This is the optimistic point of view. And the optimistic point of view is essential to the pessimistic, as the pessimistic is essential to the optimistic. Because you wouldn't know who you were, you see, if you didn't have both points of view. I'm not going to see, and when I teach, I don't try to persuade anybody. And everybody's at liberty to disagree, because I wouldn't know what I was thinking unless there were people to disagree with me. So in the same way, supposing you're in a social scene, like here in La Jolla, there are nice people, and there are not so nice people. There are various kinds of nice people, various kinds of not so nice people. There are, for example, nice people who belong to the country club set. There are nice people who belong to the arty set. Nice people who belong to the social service set, and so on. And then there are nasty people, variously be defined as the poor, the beatniks, the generally disrespectful people who live on the wrong side of the track or the wrong part of the hill or whatever it is, or the wrong town. And the nice people boost and maintain their collective ego by talking about how dreadful the nasty people are. And the nasty people boost their collective ego by talking about what frightful bourgeois squares the nice people are. Neither group realizes that they have a symbiotic relationship, just like bees and flowers. Only, whereas the bee-flower relationship is harmonious, the symbiosis of differing social groups is disharmonious, because each group needs the other to know who it is. Because if you were the only kind of people there were, you wouldn't know who you were. See, in a totally conformist society, someone sitting next to you is just like you, so there's no point talking to him. Because you might just as well talk to yourself. In other words, really and truly, to be yourself, you need other. You don't know what you mean by self unless you know what you mean by other. So this is how yang and yin, the polarities, generate everything. And when you realize that you only know who you are because of the, as it were, adversary or enemy or outgroup, you start laughing. Because that's very funny. It's the contrast from suddenly thinking, you know, wow, those bastards outside, and suddenly realizing that they are enabling you to take this pose of coming on tough, which you think is great. And you start laughing. And this is why society, as we now know it, is afraid of this ever getting let out. This thing goes round and round. But the important thing is that, supposing you believe in a free enterprise economy, you must have, in order to maintain your solidarity, especially in a very great country, you must have an external enemy. And if there wasn't one, you'd have to invent one. Because that keeps everybody on their toes, it keeps us from slacking on the job, and they say, you've got to beat those fellows. So we've got to be very serious about that, see? Are we? And of course, you lose your sense of humor. When you get so serious, you don't really know underneath it it's a game. So you have to keep, if you want to be a sane human being, you have to know right in the back of your head, right back here, what the Germans call a Hintergedanke, which is way in the back of your mind. You have to see the point that enemies need each other. Cops and robbers. Where would the cops be for a job if there weren't any robbers? How would you know you were law-abiding if there weren't criminals? It's tricky, but it's very dangerous teaching. Very subversive, because you might think, I would say, if I realized that, well, I'd say, it simply doesn't matter what kind of a person I am. And do anything I want, because evil is necessary to good. There's no fun in that attitude. Because that simply says I won't play. All right, if you want to sit by yourself under a tree and not play, I guess you could do that, provided you don't interfere with our game. And if you come and interfere with our game and say, well, now look here, you people, you're all wrong, you know, because you think you ought to be good, but it doesn't matter whether you're good or not. See? You mustn't do that. Don't interfere with the game. In order to have this kind of knowledge, that's why all this kind of knowledge has always been esoteric. And in any esoteric school, people were tested first before they got in order to find out whether you were civilized. In other words, you can't give powerful tools and powerful knowledge to people who aren't civilized and who have no humor and who have no graciousness. But nowadays, there's no way of concealing these things. I said it's a secret, but in the world of science, there are no secrets. So I don't feel any compunction about talking about these things, because if I don't, somebody else is going to. Because an awful lot of people know about it. But that is the inside dope, if I may say so, that these extremes need each other and can't manifest without each other. And the point is how to keep your head when you know that.